That morning, the training range was thick with dust, sunlight, and the familiar tang of gunpowder. The steady crack of rifle fire echoed across the field, mixing with the laughter and chatter of soldiers taking a break. It was routine, predictable, until a small figure appeared at the edge of the range, walking straight toward the shooting line. At first, no one noticed, but when the girl kept walking, steadily, deliberately, every head turned. She couldn't have been more than 14. Her brown hair was neatly braided into 2 pigtails, tucked under a faded hoodie that hung loose on her frame. A worn backpack clung to her shoulders, and her sneakers were scuffed from long use. She looked like a kid who had wandered too far from home. But there was something about her eyes. Steady, quiet, unflinching. Not the gaze of a lost child, but of someone who knew exactly where she was. She stepped up to the firing line, looked at the officer in charge, and said clearly, "I'd like to try shooting." There was a beat of silence. Then the whole range erupted in laughter. Not cruel, but dismissive. The kind of laughter that says, "You don't belong here." Not in a place where steel, sweat, and discipline ruled every inch of the ground. Not where men had bled, broken, and earned their place by force. Colonel Bronson stepped forward from the shadows. 30 years in uniform had shaped him into a man who respected only results and regulations. He studied her from head to toe, his voice lined with condescension. "Sweetheart, this isn't a playground. Who let you wander in here?" The girl didn't flinch. She didn't argue. She didn't look down. She just stood there, waiting, silent. Some younger soldiers chuckled under their breath. But one man, a weathered sergeant by the score monitor, stopped laughing. He squinted at the girl's face. Something about her struck him. Colonel Bronson hesitated. He started to turn away. But something in her stillness, her absolute calm in the face of ridicule, made him pause. You don't learn that kind of composure from cartoons or video games. You earn it. "Do you know how to use a weapon?" he asked, his tone more cautious now. She nodded once. "Has anyone trained you?" Another nod, small but certain. The wind kicked up, carrying dust and heat across the firing range. For a long moment, no one spoke. The girl stood her ground, fists gently curled around her backpack straps, feet planted, unmoving. And for those watching, something shifted. It wasn't just the stubborn courage of a child. It was something older, deeper, something familiar. That quiet defiance reminded the older soldiers of days long past, when they were young, raw recruits, standing at attention with chapped hands and trembling knees. Back when strength meant saying nothing, just enduring, until someone finally saw you. Colonel Bronson exhaled slowly. There was no child standing before him anymore. Only a presence, too still, too focused to ignore. "All right," he said at last. "One shot. That's all." No one knew why he gave in. Maybe age had softened him. Or maybe, just maybe, he saw a ghost in that girl's posture, a memory of someone long gone, or perhaps of himself decades ago. A standard M4 was brought out, ammo checked, target system reset. The range fell silent. Every man, every pair of eyes watched her, waiting. No one knew that the moment her finger touched the trigger, history was already beginning to rewrite itself. The M4 rifle was placed gently into her hands, more as a formality than with any real expectation. No one believed it belonged there. It was heavy, cold, and designed for warriors who had been molded through years of discipline, sweat, and the silent brotherhood of battle. But Emily Keller accepted it with both hands, calm, steady. There was no hesitation in her grip, no confusion in her posture. If anything, she looked like someone reunited with something familiar. She crouched slightly to check the scope, adjusted the firing angle, and double-checked the safety in a fluid sequence of movements that looked more like memory than training. Her actions were clean, practiced, startlingly precise. A captain nearby paused mid-comment. An older soldier behind him whispered, "That kid knows what she's doing." The laughter had stopped. The sarcasm evaporated. Emily stood upright, shoulders squared, her gaze fixed on the target 100 yards downrange. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't performing. She was simply present, like a soldier who'd done this countless times before. The command horn sounded. Crack, crack, crack. Each round tore through the air in quick, measured bursts. When the last shot echoed off the training barriers, the digital scoreboard blinked to life. 100% accuracy. No one moved. The sergeant managing the system assumed there had been a malfunction. He reset the software, reviewed the slow motion capture from the target cam, and ran the report again. Same result. Every single shot had landed dead center. One of the younger soldiers let out a low whistle. She shoots like it's nothing. The range officer, now visibly curious, stepped closer. What's your name? Emily turned, her face unshaken, her voice soft but unwavering. Emily Keller. The name sent a visible ripple through the group. An older enlisted man with graying temples blinked hard. Keller? Wait, as in Nathan Keller? White Wolf Keller. Murmurs began to swirl to the gathered crowd. Nathan Keller. The name still held weight in these circles, more myth than memory. A legendary Navy SEAL marksman who had served in Syria, Afghanistan, and other classified theaters long erased from public record. He had died in Aleppo during a surprise ambush, holding his position to the last bullet so that his unit could escape. That was nearly a decade ago. At the time, Emily had just turned 5. She said nothing in response to the growing realization. She didn't have to. Her silence, her presence, her skill, it all spoke louder than any biography ever could. It became clear to everyone. She hadn't come here to prove something. She'd come to continue something. The officers formed a review board that same day, not because she was the daughter of someone. No, they needed to confirm what they had seen. Was this raw talent? Was it repetition? Or was it something else entirely? Over the next 3 days, Emily was invited to undergo a series of firing drills and simulations, each one designed to test the limits of a trained SEAL candidate. These were not simple range exercises. They were designed to break people, to test decision-making under pressure, movement, reflexes, sightline adaptation, all under watchful supervision. On the first day, she completed the 150-yard static target drill with 96% accuracy, and her response time averaged faster than half the currently enlisted SEAL trainees. On the second day, she handled the variable light obstacle range, an environment built to simulate urban warfare with erratic lighting and shifting targets. It was a nightmare scenario for most rookies, but she flowed through it with a quiet confidence that unnerved even the instructors. And then came the third day, the final test, long-range mobile precision, a test designed to eliminate the difference between the good and the best. Targets appeared at random intervals, distances of 800 yards or more, and remained visible for less than 2 seconds. Wind simulation and terrain interference were part of the challenge. She was given 10 rounds. She hit 9. Only 1 round missed its mark, and even that miss landed just 3 inches off the target's vital zone. When the final score was tallied, the entire observation deck stood in disbelief. She had just broken 3 long-standing SEAL records: precision accuracy, target switching reflex time, engagement time under movement constraints. The system didn't just score her, it validated her. In a quiet after-action briefing, a retired SEAL Master Chief removed his cap and ran a hand through thinning hair. "She doesn't just shoot like a soldier," he murmured. "She carries something with her, something we don't teach at boot camp. That girl is walking with ghosts." And he wasn't wrong, because Emily didn't smile. She didn't cheer. She didn't ask what the records meant or who had held them before her. She simply sat quietly near her old backpack, staring at the far wall where the names of the fallen SEALs were etched in metal. Her father's name was there, Nathan Keller, the White Wolf. Perhaps, in her heart, these past few days weren't about validation or records or proving herself. Perhaps they were just a long overdue conversation, a silent way of telling a father she barely remembered, "I'm still here, and I'm walking the path you left behind." That day, the shooting range, once filled with smug grins and sarcastic chuckles, grew quiet. Not out of guilt, but out of recognition. Recognition that courage doesn't always arrive in uniform. Sometimes it walks in small, silent steps, wearing an oversized hoodie and carrying the weight of legacy on slender shoulders. And somewhere deep within those watching, especially the older veterans who had once stood in silence for their own lost friends, a quiet sense of awe took root. They didn't just witness a prodigy that day. They witnessed a legacy being reborn. When the final results were announced, no one clapped. No one cheered. They just stood there, still, silent, as if the weight of what had just happened needed a moment to settle into their bones. Colonel Bronson, who just days earlier had smirked and waved her off as a child lost in the wrong place, was the first to move. He stepped forward slowly, his boots crunching on the gravel range. The old soldier stood at attention, squared his shoulders, and offered a sharp salute, one filled not with formality, but with respect. "You've made your father proud, Emily," he said quietly, "and you've reminded the rest of us to shut up and listen." He didn't say more. He didn't need to. There were no news crews waiting, no cameras or microphones shoved into her face. She hadn't done this for attention. She had refused all interviews. She hadn't even looked at the leaderboards, though her name now sat above 3 records, each of them once thought untouchable. Instead, Emily walked alone across the training field, past the mess hall, beyond the barracks, and toward a quiet corner of the base where a wall of names stood, etched in steel, lined in shadow, weathered by time and sun. She stopped in front of one. Nathan Keller, Lieutenant Commander, Navy SEAL, killed in action, Aleppo, Syria. She dropped her old backpack to the ground and knelt down slowly. For a long while, she just looked, the kind of look that holds years, that pulls from places children don't often reach, unless they've grown up with silence in their rooms, folded flags on mantels, and a mother who stopped setting an extra plate at dinner long ago. Emily reached out, fingers brushing the engraved letters like tracing a memory. Her voice, when it came, was barely more than breath. "I only did what you taught me, Dad. When they laugh at you, let the bullet speak." And for a long, solemn moment, there was only wind. There's a kind of reverence that doesn't need music or medals, just presence, just knowing that someone walked into a place where they weren't welcomed, didn't raise their voice, and still left everyone changed. That day, the shooting range didn't just test someone's skill. It bore witness to a legacy returning home. Emily Keller wasn't trying to be her father. She was trying to keep a promise made long ago to a photo on a nightstand, to carry the fire forward, to prove that courage isn't about size or age or rank, but about the quiet choices made when no one believes in you, and you show up anyway. She didn't break the records for glory. She didn't ask to be noticed. She walked in with nothing but memory, and walked out with the silence of grown men behind her. And from that day forward, her name was no longer just Keller, the daughter of the White Wolf. It was Emily Keller, the girl who fired for 2. Never underestimate anyone, no matter how small they seem, how quiet their voice, or how different they look from what you expect. Sometimes, the ones we overlook are the very ones rewriting history in silence. Emily Keller didn't need approval. She let her actions speak. And maybe that's a lesson for all of us. If this story moved you, please consider subscribing to Old Soldier Story, where quiet courage, untold legacies, and the spirit of service still matter. Because some stories deserve to be remembered,